Sony announced the price for the PSVR 2, so let's talk about it. Welcome back to Mike Techs It Out, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm Mike and I'm here to talk about this PSVR 2 pricing. Now, as you may know, I recently sold my PS5, so I won't be getting the PSVR 2. But I still want to talk about the pricing because I am a huge fan of VR. So if you haven't heard, Sony officially announced the price. It is going to be $550 and it is releasing next year on February 22nd. The first thing I thought when I saw that price is it overpriced? And the answer is yes, it is. But also, no, it's not. There's two ways to look at this. There are the aspects of it being a VR headset and the aspects of it being a PlayStation 5 accessory. So let's talk about it as a VR headset. So if we talk about the headset itself, of course, if we compare it to the PSVR 1, it's way better. I mean, the PSVR 1 was the first budget option, and it was kind of cobbled together from controllers from the PS3 that nobody wanted, a camera from the PS4 that nobody wanted, and then they actually just built a headset. So of course that helped keep costs down, but also it had the stupid breakout box and it was complicated to hook up, and the tracking wasn't great, neither were the controllers, but it was fine. It lets you experience VR, and I think that's what a lot of people thought of it as, was like a budget headset that was really comfortable. But of course, with the PS5, they just wanted to do something different. This gave them the opportunity to build a headset from the ground up, a headset that works just by connecting a USB-C cable to the PS5. And of course, without relying on older technology like they did last time, it's going to cost more money. And even if we compare it to the headsets that are on PC, like for instance, if we compare this to the Valve Index, there are areas where it beats the Index. It's a higher resolution. The refresh rate on the Index, of course, is higher, but you also have things like eye tracking, which enable foveated rendering. So it only has to render the things that you're actually looking at, which saves on processing power, which is going to be important because even though the PS5 is still powerful, it's still a console, so it's just not going to be as powerful as like a high-end PC. And then they can also design games around eye tracking, and of course it's going to have those weird haptics that vibrate your head, as well as haptic triggers on the controllers. There's tech that Sony put in here that's not on other consumer-level VR headsets in the PC space. You might see this stuff on commercial headsets, but not in the consumer space. Right now, it's even going blow for blow with something like the Valve Index. Of course, we have the Quest. I have my Quest 2 here, and it's going to really blow that out of the water as far as quality. I mean, this is cheap. It's cheap for a reason. It's very good. It's enough headset for me, but it's not the best VR experience. If you want better experiences, then yeah, you got to pay for it. And that's what we're seeing here with the PlayStation VR. When we compare it to the PC side, it's actually quite reasonable for all the features that you're getting. I was expecting it to come in at $400, even after I found out about the features, not because I thought that it was only worth that much. I knew it was worth more than $400, but I thought Sony would take a loss on it a little bit just to make it more reasonably priced and trying to compete with something like this, because this really is going to be their biggest competition. And Meta already said that they're releasing a new headset next year. Well, Mark Zuckerberg said it during an earnings call. They didn't say it was going to be the Quest 3, but since they just released the Quest Pro, then it's probably going to be the Quest 3, and this is getting pretty old now. So this is really going to be their biggest competition because this works standalone, and this is $350. I figured they would try to come in closer to that price point to dissuade PlayStation users from picking up something like this versus the PSVR. But I guess I was wrong about it. But that takes me over to the other part of it. It is an accessory for the PS5, and I think as an accessory for the PS5, it is overpriced. You really have to rely on the PlayStation in order for this thing to work. The one thing that Sony is doing out of the gate that's great is they're making sure that there's unique experiences for their headset out of the gate. Like they have that Horizon game coming out. They have Resident Evil Village coming out exclusively on PSVR 2, and then they also have the Resident Evil 4 remake coming out. So they did line up some exclusives, but a lot of the third-party games that you're going to get are games that have already existed on PC and will probably be a little bit cheaper on PC and will work across multiple headsets. That's another thing that they didn't do. They already said that PSVR 1 games are not going to be forwards compatible with this new headset, which makes sense because it would probably take developer work to go back in and make those games compatible. But still, it kind of stings if you had a PSVR 1 and you want to be like, oh, I want to play all my existing games plus these new games. Then you're kind of starting all over again, whereas that's not as much of an issue on PC. The other thing with that, even though their lineup right now is initially impressive, VR is not in the same state that it was when they launched the PSVR 1. There's just not as much excitement about it. And with them charging $550 for, again, what is an accessory for the PlayStation 5, are they really going to be able to build a user base and compel developers to keep putting games on the PS5? Are they going to keep putting money behind first-party titles or to get exclusives on the PS5 if this thing doesn't do well? I mean, you can say, like, yes, they supported the PSVR, but of course that was a way cheaper headset and they were charging way less money for it. And even if it sold low margins, it probably wasn't a huge loss for them. It kind of reminds me of the PSP, which I love the PSP, but like when they put out the Vita, which I was really excited for because I love the PSP, and then they kind of was like, well, it's not selling well enough. We got the system that's selling really good, so we're just not going to develop for it anymore. Third-party development did continue happening on the Vita, but of course it wasn't at the same level as having first-party support. So that's just kind of one of the things that I worry about is if this thing doesn't catch on, is Sony going to end up abandoning it? So that's another risk of buying this headset, especially if you plan on being an early adopter for it. Of course, the other thing is the fact that they sold the first one as kind of a budget headset, and this one is coming as a premium headset. I don't know if they'll be able to even convert the users of the PSVR 1 to the PSVR 2 because of the price difference. There probably were a lot of people on PS4 that just bought a PSVR because it was $200 on Black Friday. Maybe they weren't necessarily that interested in VR, and at $200 is definitely a steal. I don't know if those same people are going to want to jump to $550 along with just buying a PS5, which is already $400 to $500 depending on which model you get, maybe more depending on where you live, and then on top of that basically buy like a whole nother system. I just don't know who this is for because I don't think a lot of those people that bought this cheap PSVR 1 headset are going to go buy this new one. VR is already a hard sell for people as is, and to release a $550 headset that only works with a console that's less money than the headset, like I said, it's a really hard sell. I really don't know who Sony's target market is for this thing, and that's my biggest concern about it. So in conclusion, when it comes to being overpriced, yes, it is overpriced as a PlayStation accessory. No, it's not overpriced for the features. If you want to go out and buy it, it's probably going to be a great headset, but it is going to be a PS5 accessory, like it's made for the PS5. That has its good and bad things. Of course, Sony does have some exclusive games that you can only play on the PlayStation, so that's good to be able to play those games. Plus, a lot of the games that have been developed for PC are coming over to PlayStation VR 2 as well. So it's not like you'll be starved for content, but at the same time, if Sony decides at some point to pull the plug on this thing, then you won't get any more first-party games. They're not going to pay any more money to have exclusives on that headset, and you'll probably still get some third-party development, but it probably won't be as good as PC. But I think this is still going to be their biggest competition just because it works standalone. Like, none of the PC headsets are really in direct competition with the PSVR. This is like the only thing because it's a better value because you're getting a full experience with this headset. Yeah, you can buy the PSVR 2, but you still got to have a PS5, which is still $400 to $500. Whether you're a PC headset maker or a console headset maker, beating this is difficult for the value that it provides. And the only reason I'm really going back to this is because, again, PSVR 1 started off as a budget headset, and I think that those people, even if they want a new headset, they might just look at something like this and be like, you know what, I can get that for $350 and everything's built into it. I don't know if those people would want to spend that much money to get the PSVR 2. They might also be angry if their games don't work with the new headset. They got to rebuy them once they re-release on PlayStation as the PSVR 2 versions. The price for the features I understand. I just don't understand who Sony made this for and how successful they're expecting it to be. That's the part I'm confused about, so I'm interested to see how this whole thing shakes out. I would normally just do this as part of my Sunday news video, but I had a lot that I wanted to say about the PSVR 2. So thank you for listening, and let me know if you're interested in getting one or if you are getting one and what your thoughts are on the price down in the comments. I'm getting out of here, but if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified when I drop a video, and always do at least 2 things at the same time.